Hi everyone, welcome to today's class. We're basically halfway through the semester. So in the first 6 lectures, we spent time to talking about sports administrations. We talk about all the different issues associated with the sports administrations, including we talk about the management theories, we talk about organizational theories, we also talk about human resources, how we develop a budget for organizations, and also talk about how we could manage a race for the organizations. So starting from today, we'll be focusing on the second part of the semester that we'll be talking about sports governance. So the upcoming 4 lectures that are related to sports governance. So we'll be using these textbooks, right? Governance and policies in sports organizations. So majority reading that you'll be doing for the rest of semesters are coming from these textbooks. For lecture 7, so I'm going to give you a very brief content associated with the sports governance and also the policy developments. From here, you can see we'll be talking about 2 topics. First topic is about sports organization and sports governing bodies. So what the difference is between the normal organization and sports governing bodies. And we'll talk about 5 R's of the good governance in sports, 5 organizational unit, and talk about the differences between our constitutions and bylaw. Right. And the second part, we're going to talk about how we can develop a policy. Basically, we're going to introduce the definition of the policy, let you know about the purpose of having a good policy in the organization. We'll talk about 4 different elements when we try to decide a policy, including a policy's goals, what we try to achieve, causal models, and also policy targets in policy instruments. And the last part, we're going to talk about policy development, how we could develop a policy, right? So the policy normally will include a title, right? The title need to be brief and straightforward. People look at the title, you basically know what this top policy is going to talk about. And the second one is about the purpose, why we're having these policies, what kind of benefit the organization could have after creating these policies. And the third one is the policy statements. If people want to follow this policy, the policy statement is definitely the place where they're able to get those details, informations. Last part is the other supplement document if that's necessary. So this is policy development. The reading is a chapter 1, 3, and 4 from the textbooks. I have 2 videos I want you to go and watch. Make sure you watch all the video. Here is the PowerPoint for today's class. And for the assignment for today, we have online discussion 3. So for the online discussion, I would like to emphasize here again. So the online discussion will have 20 points. So 80% of the online discussions are based on your response. So you will have to have like 250 words at least response. Make sure all the response are pretty well written, well organized, very easy for people to follow. And if there's argument, you have a very strong arguments there, right? So that's 80% of points based on your word, right? So this need to be completed on day 1. And the second day, you will have to go and respond to another 2 students' answers, right? This will be counted as a 20% of these assignments. So basically, 20 points in totals. So 4 points were based on your response to the other students. If you did not respond to any students, you got 0. So even though you wrote a perfect, answers, you can only get 16 in these assignments, right? But if you only responded to 1 student, you can get 2 more points, right? So make sure every response you have a minimum 100 words. You can't just say, I strongly agree with your arguments. You made a good point, good effort. You'll not be able to get full grade if you only, write 1 or 2 sentences for each of the response that you have to another students. Make sure you have at least 100 words. Your answer need to be solid, provide the rationale. If you agree with the student's word, you indicate why the students create good policies, why this policy is good, what area these policies still need to be considered, right? So this is how you're going to work. Let's look at today's online discussion very quick. So today's online discussion, I want you to go and develop a policy. So I give you a scenario. So they say basically as a high school athletic director, you're currently supervising a large sports programs in 19 sports and determined to be fair for each of the team. You currently have 6 sports that are actually using the same facilities. You only have one outdoor facilities. So the 6, the team will be using ones. So now you have to go and write a policy to describe about the procedure if the teams want to use this school's policy and set the boundaries for the team if they want to use the field outside the schools. So for your policy, you need to include the titles. So what's the title of this policy? Second thing is talk about the purpose of the policy. We'll talk about why are we creating this policy? What are we trying to address? What kind of problem or issue that we are trying to address by using these policies? How each of the teams on the organization itself can benefit from these policies. And then you have policy statements. So policy statements for these policies, basically, you will have to let people to know if those teams want to use the only policy facility we have in the schools. What's the procedures? How should they apply for these facilities? How many days in advance they need to submit applications? What kind of procedure? Do they have to fill out the forms, or do they have to contact certain people? So who will be mainly responsible for approving their request? If their request has not been approved, what could they do, right? And so that's the first thing you have to think about when you create this policy. The second thing you have to think about when you're creating this policy is if the team decided to use the facilities outside the schools, what is the procedures like? How should they apply for these? You have to think about those potential risks when they're not using the facilities that belongs to the school itself, the potential risks. Right, so would you allow them? If you allow them, what's the procedures? If you not allow them to use the facility and not associate with the schools, how are you going to deal with that problem and challenges? And of course, the sanction. If someone else will violate these policies, what do they have to do? If you think people will have to go and submit applications for using the facilities, what this application form should look like, what information should you contain that. So that will be the separate document that you can release it at the end, not in the policy itself, not in the sanction, but at the end, the last part, right? So this is about today's online discussion. So if you have any question, email is still the best way to get hold of me. I hope you are enjoying this class. If you have any issue, please let me know. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you guys next time.